Okay, here is the video for the first Excel activity in chapter 3, and it really does combine both sections 3.1 and 3.2. So I'm going to open the requirements and grading criteria. I'll download that, I think. So I just have it handy while I'm doing this, and then I'll go back. And then download the Excel data sheet. And just like before, it doesn't look like an Excel sheet right when I open it, but I click download. And then depends on what browser you're using. Sometimes with Chrome, it puts it like at the bottom of the web page. And then with Firefox, it puts it up in this little area. And then you can open it from here. And let's see, I don't know. There we go. It just took a little bit to open. Oh, that was for the last one. Okay, so when it opens it, then click on Enable Editing because we're going to make changes to it. Okay, so let me open the requirements and grading document. It doesn't want to, okay. It wasn't opening really. Okay. So the first thing says create or copy from the file I posted a table showing the grades in 2 different sheets. And so this activity is about, a lot of people say, are you going to curve the test? When what they really mean is, are you just going to add points to everybody's score? Because a lot of times grading on a curve, it won't help you like you think it will. Adding points to your score helps you, but grading on a curve doesn't always help your score. I'm actually going to go look at the grading criteria, I think, as well. So the first one, copy, enter data into 2 sheets. So when I open my Excel file, notice that there is just, I'll make it a little bit smaller for now. So kind of in the middle, you can see this, it just says sheet 1 at the bottom. I want there to be another sheet. So 1 is going to be just how the grades are normally determined, 90, 80, 70, 60 cutoffs for A's, B's, C's, D's, etc. And then I want to create a sheet that shows what the scores look like if you use the bell curve. And so to add another sheet to the file, you just click on this little plus sign. And then it says, name the sheets standard grading system and grading on a curve. So how to rename sheets is, so click on the sheet and then just double click on the name and you can just type over it, standard grading system. And then go into the one that's called sheet 2, double click, and then call it, I think, grading on a curve. Yeah. So double click, grading on a curve. I still haven't copied the data into the second sheet. So here's how to do it really quick. Click on standard grading system, click up in this top corner that has that little green triangle in it. It highlights everything, even though we only have 2 columns. It highlights the whole sheet. And then you can just do, either you can do, click on home, and then this little sheet is copy, and then go over to click on grading on a curve, and it should bring up that sheet. Well, I guess I had to click on it twice, and then do home, paste. To copy all cells, make sure you paste them into the first cell. Oh, I accidentally clicked on a different thing. So click OK, put it up in the top left corner, and now do paste. Okay, so now the data is in there. The second one says use Excel, or the next grading thing says use Excel to calculate the class average on each page and the standard deviation on each page. And then the mode and the median. So remember, those are the those are 3 measures of center and then 1 measure of spread, the standard deviation. Our 4 measures of center were mean or average, median, mode, and then mid-range. We're not going to do mid-range on this. We're just going to look at mean, median, and mode. Okay, so click back on your Excel file. And then let's just go over in column D here, and we'll say mean. Just type it in and press enter, and then median, and then mode. And then in the cells next to it, we'll get Excel to calculate these values for us. Remember, when we're getting Excel to calculate, we always start out with equals. And the first thing we want is the mean. So we just, but Excel calls it average. So start typing in the word average. You'll see it brings it up. I always just finish typing it, and then parentheses. Now you could highlight all of the scores, or as long as there's nothing else underneath your data, then you can just highlight the column that your data is in. And my data is all in column B, and there's nothing underneath it. And I will be careful not to enter anything underneath it, because if you enter anything in column B underneath your data, it's going to change the average. So sometimes highlighting cells is safer, and sometimes highlighting columns is safer. Like maybe, oh, somebody took a test late and now you want to add their score in. Well, when you highlight the whole column, if you go in and update later, then it'll just fix the formula. Whereas if you highlight cells, it's only going to keep, like, if you say 25 students, it's just going to do the first 25 students. And every time you enter a new score, then you're going to have to go change your formula. So it depends on what you're going to be doing with your data. So now I'm not going to type anything else in column B. I assume I have all the students I need. And so then I just close parentheses. Okay, now remember our round off rule says display data to 1 decimal point more than what you have in the original data set. And I see some of them are whole numbers and some of them show 1 decimal place. So I should show 2 decimal places. So when I click on the mean, and then I go home. So here's number stuff. These 2 arrows move the decimal place. So this decrease decimal says show fewer decimal places. That's what I want. I only want to show 2. So I hit it until I only see 2 decimal places displayed, and then I press enter. My things are going slow today with Excel. Okay, so there's the median. The mean. Now I want to do the median. And so it's sort of similar. I can just start out with equals, and you just type in the word median. Open parentheses, and then I'm just going to click on the B, and it uses everything there. Close parentheses, enter. Okay, 2 decimal places, perfect. Mode. Okay, and so I'm just going to show you that although there may be some numbers with more repeats, Excel will only find 1, but it's similar to the way we did mean and median. You just start out with equals, type in the word mode, open parentheses, highlight column B, and then enter. Close parentheses, enter. And so it says 92. Now there might be other things that were repeated the same times, but the same number of times, but remember, Excel will only report the first one it finds. I just want you to know how to use that command. The thing I haven't done yet is standard deviation. Okay, so I'll leave a space in between because those 3 are measures of center. Standard deviation is a measure of spread. So we'll just abbreviate STAN period DEV period, standard deviation. Okay. Now, start out with equals, and how you do this in Excel is it abbreviates as well, STDEV. And now look when the things that are suggested, there's STDEV.P. That P stands for population. And then the one under it, STDEV.S, that stands for sample. But we had, our data is for all of the students in class. And so this would be a population. Okay, if I said I took a sample of 10 of the students in class, then I would use the .S one. So I want .P, open parentheses, and then again, just click on the B and then close parentheses, press enter. Okay, but then go back up to that number, and we only want to show 2 decimal places. So click on home and then decrease decimal until we're only showing 2. Okay. Good. Okay, set up a table for the distribution under the standard system. So 3-column headings, letter grade, grade, and frequency. The letter grade, that will be A, B, C, D, F. The grade is going to be like the percentage. So not the letter, but like, did you get an 87 on the exam? Okay. So I go over here, and so I'm going to do grade, letter grade. Oh, I think they put letter, I said letter grade first. It doesn't really matter. Letter grade, grade, frequency. Let's just make the letter grade column a little bit wider so everything fits in there. Okay. Label the rows with the 5 different letter grades and center. Okay, so the letter grades are A, oops, I'll go right under letter grade. A, B, C, my goodness, B, D, F. Okay, and then center. So I'm also gonna, letter grades sort of looks like it's in the middle, but it's not. Here's how I know. When I click on home, the center column is not highlighted. It should be. So I'm going to highlight all of these, click on home, and then center. This one right here. This one centers left to right. The one above it centers top to bottom. Okay. Enter the upper class limits for each grade and center. Well, the upper class limit for an A, normally we think of as 100%, but sometimes people also get extra credit and it goes above 100. I don't see any grades here above 100. So I think we would be safe saying 100, but remember, we have to be a little bit careful about class limits. Let's first think about what the lower limits would be. So an A really would be 90 to 100. A B is 80 to, let's just use 89 point, we'll say 9 here because everything only went to 1 decimal place. So the upper class limit for Bs, we'll think of as 89.9, right? Enter the upper class limits for each grade and center. So I'm going to do the B first. It would be 89.9. And then the C would be 79.9, right? Because Bs start at 80, right? So I'll do 79.9. And then Ds would be 69.9. Fs would be 59.9. So this is what shows me I shouldn't do 100 for the A's, because remember, we want our classes to be equally spaced, and those are all 10 units apart, which means the upper limit for A should be 10 units above the upper limit for B. So 99.9. And then center them. So let's highlight grade and all of the numbers below it, and then just go to home and center. Okay, so we've done letter grade, grade, frequency, we've labeled the rows, we've entered the upper class limits for each grade, and we've centered them. And so now we're going to use the data analysis tool pack to do the table and the histogram. Actually, the histogram thing will do the frequency for us, but that's fine. I'll leave that here. We can just copy later. Okay, so remember what you have to do is click on data and data analysis. Just very quickly, if your data analysis is not showing up under the data tab, you go to file all the way down to options, add-ins, down at the bottom, go, and then make sure these two are clicked and click OK, and then it'll put that tab in under data for you. So way over on the right, there will be a data analysis. And I already have histogram selected, so make sure you click on histogram and click OK. Your input is in column B. B2, nope, I don't want to start at B2. I definitely want to start at B1. So I'm just going to delete that. And if you want, again, you can just click right on the B, say use everything there. The bin range, so type over that and highlight your upper class limits. Okay, output range. I don't know why G7 is highlighted. That's probably what I used the last time I was doing an Excel activity. Let's go ahead and put it underneath. Let's just do H, column H. I put it in H14. And then we want the chart output. That's the graph. And then before I click OK, I'm just going to make sure that I'll have everything I want. To create a histogram, that's the graph, and frequency distribution. Yep. Okay. All right. Click OK. Okay. So there's our histogram, and there it gives us the frequencies. Notice it just did it lowest to highest instead. So I'm just going to type in what the frequencies should be here. The Fs, there are 9. There are 4 Ds. There are 4 Cs. There are 6 Bs and 5 As. Let's go ahead and center those. I'm sure I want us to do that later. So home, center. Okay. Delete the frequency label in the histogram, which is the one on the right. So just click on that box and you can right click on it and just choose delete. Okay, so we can see that this is definitely not a bell-shaped curve. It doesn't start low, go high, and then go low again. It starts high, right? It also has it in opposite order, right? It does lowest to highest, which is normally how we label things on the x-axis, right? We wouldn't normally put 99 on the left and then 89 and so on. So it's fine that it's arranged this way. Get rid of the gaps between the bars in the histogram and create border lines between the bars. Okay, so remember how to do that. If you did some of the activities from chapter 2, I'm going to just make this a little bit bigger. So I just clicked somewhere on the, not on the graph part, just somewhere on the white, and then go to this bottom corner until it turns into that diagonal arrow. I'll just make it a little bit bigger. And then click on a bar. Let's see if we bring up format or chart design. Okay, nope, just double click on a bar. Or maybe right click on a bar. Yeah. Okay. And then we want to do let's see. Let's try format data point, kind of down at the bottom here. Yeah, gap width. I don't want there to be any gaps. So arrow that down to 0. and then it filled in everything. So now there's no gaps between the bars, and it says add border lines. So, let's click it. Let's see what it says on the, no, I clicked on the little pentagon thing. And then what if I click on the paint can border? Yep. So I want a solid line for my border, and then just pick a color over here that shows up well. So black would show up well, or a light color. So what if I choose this light yellow? I don't care what color you use. Why is it only showing up on one? What if I close this? I don't know why my border only showed up on one of them. Okay, so I'm going to do it again. I'm going to right click and then format data series. And then I click on the paint can, solid line, yellow. I'll just do it again. Let's see. It should do it. I don't know what, there we go. Okay, so now all of the lines show. All right, so I can see where each bar starts and stops. Okay, get rid of the gaps, create border lines. We have already centered everything in the table, and I've entered all of the frequencies for the letter grades. Now we're going to do a new one for the bell curve system. Okay, so first what I'm going to do, what we need for the bell curve system, we don't necessarily need the letter grade and frequency tables, but I'm going to go ahead and just copy everything starting at the mean, and then highlight just all of that in the table. And then I want to copy that. So copy, and then, oh, I accidentally did everything in the grading on a curve sheet. You know what? That's fine. Hopefully you did it in the standard grading system sheet. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to click in a different cell and hit the space bar. Okay. And then I'm just going to copy this stuff into the first page. So into the standard grading system page, or you could just rename. You could call this one standard grading system, whatever. I'm going to just copy this. So remember, click up in this top corner. Copy. Click on standard grading system page. Click on person one. Paste. Okay. So it's fine that I did it in the wrong sheet. It's easy to paste it into the right sheet. Just a reminder too, there's always this undo button right here. If you make a mistake, you can hit that undo button. Okay. So now most of what I need is already on the grading on a curve page. What we want to do is we're doing a different grading system. So delete this table. So I'm just highlighting it and I'm just pressing the delete key on my keyboard. And then click on the histogram. And then let's see, home cut. Okay. We need to leave the mean, median, and mode, but we're going to change the grade cutoffs. So you can delete all of those. So here's the idea between grading on a curve. They want the average to be right in the middle. So the mean is going to be the middle. So I'm going to click next to the mean. I'm just going to make a note to myself that this will be in the middle. Okay, now we need to define ranges. So remember in class, I said standard deviation is like we were talking about the weights of, I think we did maybe ages in a waiting room. The average age was 15. We found the standard deviation was 8. And then we say most of the grades are within 8 years of the average or the mean. So that's the idea here. We know what should be in the middle is 69.43. So let's start, and C's are in the middle, right? So before I put the upper class limits into the grade column, I'm going to make like I'm kind of going to do scratch work down here. So here's the C's. And then after we get the C's done, we'll do D's, and then we'll do F's, and then I'll go up and we'll do B's, and then A's. And it's going to be easiest if here we do the lower and the upper limits for the A's, B's, and C's. So I'm just going to quick bring up like something where I can draw. So the idea with the bell curve, whoops, is we want this curve that's shaped like a bell. We want the average in the middle. And then we want to go up one standard deviation, which I'm just going to abbreviate with SD. So I want to go up one SD and down one SD. And we'll call that like the middle of our graph. So there's going to be a huge like range for the C's. So C's will be in the middle. And so our average was 69.43. We're going to go up. So we'll add the standard deviation to get the upper limit. And then we'll go down the standard deviation to get the lower limit. We'll get Excel to do that. And then next come the B's. And then way at the top is the A's. And what we're going to do is we're just going to add one more standard deviation to get the B's. And then we'll add one more standard deviation to get the A's. And then we'll go down. So we'll subtract one SD from the lower limit of the C's to get the bottom for the D's. And then we'll subtract one more. Well, actually, we don't even have to worry about subtracting. Anything below the bottom D is an F, right? So we don't, they would go down to 0, right? So I just really need the upper class limits. Okay, so here's how we're going to get Excel to do that for us. So let's start, like I said, let's start with the C's because we know they need to be in the middle. So the lower limit, I'll just do that. I'm going to click on equals and then click on the mean, but I'm going to subtract. So I just typed a minus and then click on the standard deviation and press enter. So that would be the lower limit for the C's. Look at how low that is for the C's. So 49.34. So if I go look at my graph, you obviously don't need to do this. That would be this number, 49.34. The very middle is 69.43, I think, yeah. Now we're going to go up one standard deviation to get the upper limit for the C's. So the upper, so I'm just clicking on the cell that says upper after C's. I don't know why it's showing that it's not where I'm clicking. I really am clicking in the box where it says upper, but it's putting that outline around a different box. So, but I'm just going to start typing. So equals, and then it's going to be the average. So I have to arrow up and click on the mean and then type a plus and then click on the standard deviation and press enter. I don't know why it's putting it there. I'm just going to do copy, cut, paste. Okay. So there's the upper limit for the C's. Look at, that's why I say people think grading on a curve is good, but the upper limit for the C's is almost a 90, right? So that really isn't good for people who did okay on the exam. So most of those people would have had B's if I'm not grading on a curve. So I'll just put that in my picture. So that would be 89.52. Now I'll go ahead. This is a case where we're not going to have equally spaced. We're not going to have equally spaced classes, right? If we're doing the bell curve. And we're just gonna put the upper limit. So the upper limit for C, oops, C, not for A. And I'm just gonna click on equals. And then just click on it. Yeah. Okay, now how to get the B's? Well, the lower limit for B's would equal yeah, okay, let me show my picture. The lower limit for B's, so the B's start where the C's stop. So we're just going to use the same number, 89.52. So that would be the lower limit. Oops. I'll just go ahead and click on it. And then the upper limit, so again, I'm going to start out with equals, is that, and then plus, we go up one more standard deviation. So I just click on the standard deviation. Look at, I go past 100 and you still only get a B. So this, like I said, grading on a curve, people misuse the phrase a lot. So because they're not really using statistics. Okay, and then the A's, the lower limit for the A's would be, right, they meet. So the B's, what was that? 109 point what? 61. And then that's where the A's, start. And I'm just going to, again, use the same number, 109.61. So I'll do equals this. And we don't really have to worry about it so much since there's nothing above that. But the upper technically would be this, the lower limit plus the standard deviation again. Now let's do the D's. So the upper limit of the D's goes right to the lower limit of the C's, right? So the upper limit of the D's is 49.34. That's the upper, right? So I'll click equals this. What would be the lower limit for the D's? And I said what we have to do is right here, right? Subtract one standard deviation. Okay, so I click equals, click on the upper limit, minus, and then click on standard deviation. So 29.24. So you only need a little over 29% to get a D, but it's basically impossible to get an A. So I'll go back to my graph. So there's 29.24, which would be then the upper limit for the F's. And that's really all we need for that table. Technically, the lower limit would be a 0, right? And the upper limit would be that 29.24. What we need for the table is the upper limits, right? So the upper limit for A's is this. So I'm just going to click on it. For B's, I'm going to do equals and then just click on it. For C's, I already have it. For D's, the upper limit is 49.34. And then for F's, the upper limit is 29.24. Okay, so I think I've done everything I need for that part. So label the rows, find the upper class limits, use the data analysis tab to create a histogram and frequency distribution, and then we'll do the same thing, get rid of the gaps and create borderlines. Okay, so what we want to do is go data, data analysis, and then histogram should already be highlighted when it comes up. Why it's being slow for me. Let me try it one more. Oh, there we go, finally. Histogram, click OK. My input range is still, my data is still in column B, so I don't want to change that. My bin range, it's still in the same place, I5 to I9. I don't want to change that. My output range, H14, that's perfectly fine. And I already have chart output selected and click OK. Okay, let's move the histogram over. And so you see, this is much more bell-shaped, right? We have the high point in the middle. It goes down on the left. It goes down on the right. And it's sort of symmetric. There's this one other little extra bar, but other than that, it sort of looks the same on the left as on the right. Delete the frequency. So I just right click on it, delete, and then double click on a bar. And gap width, change that to go down to 0. And then they all touch. And then I click on the paint can and I want to put borders. White would show up fine, or you can change it to a different color if you want. You don't have to. And then close this out. And so, yeah, I see all the borders. So let's see, delete the frequency, get rid of the gaps, create border lines between the bars, update the table you created. Everything already is centered. Oh, I just have to enter the frequencies. So that's my last thing to do. And remember, their table, the F's are at the top. So there was one F, there were 4 D's, there were 18 C's, there were 5 B's and 0 A's. And so you see, yeah, most of the people get C's, which is what happens when you grade on a curve. Okay, that is it. So you would want to go File, Save As, make sure you're saving as an Excel workbook, and then you can leave it like that, or you can just say 3. This is actually 3.1 or 3.2, not 3. It used to be 3.3 in a different book. And then I'll just say Newberg. And I am saving it in my downloads folder. And then I'm ready to turn it in. And if you go back to the announcements area, when you're, sorry about that, when you're done with the activity, you can submit it here. All right, that's it.